6:35, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up next. Now, I've counted on not one, but two fingers, because that's really as high as I can count. Totally kidding. But two fingers, Joan, the number of Congress people that are going to vote no on Mike Johnson for Speaker. So we're going to get into that because he can only afford to lose one.
One, yeah.
So we're going to get into that coming up on Nashville's Morning News. We're talking very quickly about Apple and this lawsuit. They've got to pay $95 million to settle this lawsuit accusing Apple's Siri of eavesdropping, literally recording conversations, then taking those conversations and handing them over to advertisers so that they could, if you're talking about purses, then they'll hand that over to some purse developer, and here comes a bunch of ads to your phone about purses. I mean, that's how it works. We've all talked about this where, my gosh, we were just talking about turkeys, and all of a sudden we've got all these ads for turkeys on our phones coming up or on our social media or whatever. So that's, I'm assuming, part of the explanation. This is for iPhone users. Apple now agreeing to pay $5 million in this lawsuit, basically not admitting that they did what they did. By the way, you know how much Apple is worth? I mean, it is like billions and billions of dollars.
So this $95 million, like, big deal.
It's nothing. It's nothing. I mean, they just basically, the $95 million is a go-away payment for Apple.
Yes.
But you said that you can actually
turn Siri off.
Disengage Siri.
Yeah.
So how do
you don't need to have Siri on your phone. So what you do is you go to the settings on your phone. Now, everybody's going to have a different experience because different iOS versions will look differently on your screen.
Yes.
But you can go to the settings app and then search for Siri and search, and you toggle off where it says listen for Hey Siri. Just hit the off button for that on my phone. And I thought iOS 18, but it may be a newer version, but it also, it has different settings when you go into it. So talk to Siri, you can just turn off.
I tried to download the iOS 18 onto my phone.
Yeah.
My phone like literally seized up and started smoking. That's how old my phone is.
Wait, smoking?
I think he's kidding.
Good Lord, Malinoff.
Dude, have you heard about the explosion phones that have happened in the past?
Exploding phones?
People have had their phones explode in their pockets and light on themselves on fire and burn their skin. You haven't heard this?
No.
Yeah, that's real. That's why I was like, oh, is it smoking? Because that's happened before.
No.
That's a smoking hot phone for you.
I don't have those kinds of conversations on my phone, young man. Moving right along. 6:38, Nashville's Morning News.
You might want to keep the phone out of your pocket, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. Will Mike Johnson get the speaker's nod today? The vote is today. It is going to be close. By the way, coming up at 8:06, I've got Congressman Mark Green. Going to ask him his opinion on that and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. But Thomas Massie is a congressman out of Kentucky, and he's been saying for quite some time that he is not going to vote for Mike Johnson for Speaker. This was last night on One America News.
Oh, no. You can pull all my fingernails out. You can shove bamboo up in them. You can start cutting off my fingers. I am not voting for Mike Johnson tomorrow. And you can take that to the bank.
All right, so you can take that to the bank. Thomas Massie will not be voting for Mike Johnson. So there's only... And even CNN is reporting Speaker Johnson's fate uncertain as House Republicans prepare to vote. So there's Andy Ogles. So I was going back and forth with Congressman Ogles yesterday, and he told me that so far, the media was reporting the same thing, that Johnson didn't have the numbers. The numbers were not good. And I did ask the congressman if he was going to vote for Mike Johnson for Speaker, and he did not answer me. So I'm not sure if he has an opinion this morning. Scott Desjardins, I believe he is yes. He is going to vote for Mike Johnson. I don't know where Mark Green is on this. I don't know where John Rose is on this. But by and large, there's a number of different Congress people that are saying they're not going to vote for him, which means that Donald Trump is going to be really ticked off, among other things. Massie, by the way, posts on X this long but succinct post about why Johnson isn't ready for the job. Now, some people are saying that Thomas Massie has something personal against Mike Johnson. I don't know what that would be, but he did a poll where 7% predicted that Johnson would get the speakership. 93% are saying that he wouldn't. He also, by the way, said that he doesn't have any F's left when it comes to Mike Johnson in the speakership. Massie says that Johnson doesn't have the qualities to lead the Republicans. He says that Johnson lacks the situational awareness to know what will pass and what can't. He also says that he will not be honest with Donald Trump. He says that he cannot make their case to the media, that Johnson cannot make their case to the media. He will not be honest with Donald Trump. He says that Mike Johnson will lose the majority in the midterms for the Republicans. And Massie also accusing Mike Johnson of working with Democrats to pass the massive omnibus bills and funding for Ukraine, and yes, spying as well. And that spying part is true as well. Massie said in closing, the emperor has no clothes and the entire conference knows it, but few will actually say it. The general public knows it too. Please don't shoot the messengers. So Massie says the numbers aren't there. Ogle said yesterday the numbers aren't there. Media is reporting that the numbers aren't there as of yet. So part of what's going on here is you do have Republicans of all shades with wildly different opinions. We all love Scott Jennings, right? So Scott Jennings over on CNN, we all play his audio. He was, of course, he puts the leftists in their place on CNN. Well, he was on with Wolf Blitzer, and he was talking about why Mike Johnson should be the Speaker of the House.
Why do we need to think about having to survive something when we have an obvious option here? Mike Johnson has done a good job. Look, anytime the numbers are this close, it's going to be a very difficult job, and there are things that aren't going to go smoothly every single time. And we just have to accept that. Johnson's done a good job. The president trusts him. The president won the election, and a lot of Republicans won because of Donald Trump and the agenda he put forward. So what Donald Trump is saying is, give me a speaker that I trust and that I can work with so we can begin to pass my agenda. That ought to be a good enough reason for any member of the House Republican Conference. We've got a very closely divided House. The only way to move anything forward here is to have teamwork, to stick together. Republicans need to start that process with the Speaker's vote.
Then you have Ronnie Jackson, big-time Donald Trump supporter, and he has been a Trump defender for years.
Well, I'm absolutely positively voting for Speaker Mike Johnson. He's done a good job under the circumstances. We need to get this, we need to move the ball right now. President Trump has stepped out and said, let's put Mike back in the Speaker's role so we can move on with the Make America Great agenda and what the American people have told us that they want us to do. We have to do that now. There's no time to mess around. It's time to put on our game faces and get it done. Yep. And I hope that these people you're talking about, I hope that if they do vote against him, it's just a protest vote. We can get past that. We can come together as a conference, because we will not win unless we come together as a team. It's one team, one fight right now. We've got the House, we've got the Senate, and we've got the presidency coming up. We've got to take advantage of this. We may never get another chance.
All right, so that is Ronnie Jackson. You heard Scott Jennings, who no longer in politics per se. They say that Johnson can only lose one vote, so Massie has won. There's others that have also said, I think I've got some slippery elm in my throat. I think that's what the problem is, and I'm trying desperately to get it out. Let's do this.
Do you want me to get you something?
No. Let's go to traffic, and I'll be fine after that, because I do have some audio that you've got to hear from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and that is coming up next on WTN. Very good. At 6:45, 35 degrees here at Super Talk 99.7. As far as your weather goes, it's going to get cold, especially this weekend. High of 42. Low of 26 that's today. On Saturday, a high of 39, but a low of 24. And on Sunday, a high of 53, a low of 29. We do have in the next couple of days possible dusting of snow and also some freezing rain. So it's going to be very interesting weather-wise over the next several days. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, we all know that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she has been a huge critic of Speaker Mike Johnson. Last night, she posted a video And she is saying that she is all in for Speaker Green.
That's why I'm excited tomorrow. I cannot wait to get started. I'll be voting for Mike Johnson.
She's all in for Speaker Johnson. Now, surprised by that, of course, because she has been blasting him forever. And she did admit that she does have some big time differences, but she also says that there are bigger things at play.
You all have seen me disagree with Mike Johnson at times. You've seen me fight against him at times. But you want to know something else? Here's what I recognize. For the past 4 years, all of you, and myself included, have put blood, sweat, and tears into electing President Trump. And when you want to talk about blood, President Trump himself actually was the one that shed blood after an assassin shot him in the face.
See, so she's tying in, and I know that a lot of people are, but she's talking about the battle of Donald Trump and Republicans. So she and many others, of course, pointing to the fact that Trump has supported Johnson. This is the guy that Donald Trump trusts. And so a lot of these folks wouldn't be in Congress without Donald Trump's support, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that is true. And they also don't want to hamstring Trump going into this administration. Totally get that. We spoke the other day about how if you go against Trump on this, you actually could be primaried. And Donald Trump could pull his support for you and support someone else. And so I was a little surprised at Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she does seem to make sense. She says that America has a lot of reasons to stop the drama in Congress and stop the drama in Washington, D.C. From the crap show that was Joe Biden's 4 years, the assassination attempts, the 2 terrorist attacks, plus whatever the future holds with all of this. And so for Marjorie Taylor Greene, she wants to give Donald Trump what he wants and move forward to certify the election with the unified Republican Party.
Well, here's what I'm asking my colleagues to do. Let's put aside our pride, let's put aside our egos, and let's put aside the infighting. It's time to come together as Republicans, and it's time to do whatever it takes to make sure that we deliver the mandate that the American people told us to do.
So I guarantee you right now, because this vote is going to happen in a few hours, and the phones are ringing off the hook. People like Congressman Andy Ogles, people like Congressman Mark Green. Marjorie Taylor Greene has already come out and she has said that she is supportive. But there's a handful of folks like Chip Roy is another one out of Texas. He has been a big time critic of Mike Johnson. But he's also been a big time supporter of Donald Trump. So I guess the question is, bottom line is for these folks, you've got to make a choice. If you choose to not support Mike Johnson for Speaker, then he'll certainly see it as a betrayal of Donald Trump. But a lot of your supporters, if you are a fiscal conservative, a lot of your supporters will be really angry and believe that you are less of a conservative if you do support Mike Johnson. So there's a lot to this. And this is a lot of, Johnson, this is what you would call palace drama. He was in the palace. He was in the hallways of Congress, and he was confronted about why he doesn't have the votes.
Speaker Johnson, why are there still undecideds before this election, one day before the election? Why are there still undecideds?
People are talking through process changes they want and those kinds of things, and I'm open to that. And I think tomorrow's going to go well.
What's your message?
He's really confident, but I don't know how confident he really is. Now, it was interesting. He was on Newsmax last night, and he said a couple of things that I thought were really interesting. So we're going to play some of that audio coming up here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 6:50, and Joan Jones has the news coming up at 7. Joan, what do you got coming up?
Well, Dan, coming up at 7 o'clock this morning,
Did you just channel Marsha Blackburn?
I was trying not to, but I think it came out that way. Yeah,
you absolutely channeled Senator Marsha Blackburn, and I don't know what I did.
Well, Dan,
aside from the Slippery Elm episode, which I don't know what in the world is squiggling down there in my throat that suddenly took over, but
squiggling.
Well, Slippery Elm, whatever. Moving right along. Anyway, so yeah, that was not well Dan worthy. But
I'm sorry. Yeah,
it's okay.
I didn't mean to well Dan you.
Yeah, don't well Dan me. I'm getting that at home by not only Riker but also Amy. So
Yeah.
it's become a thing. Moving right along.
So coming up in the news at 7:00, could a rocky personal life have led the Cybertruck bomber to his demise? Some new information about him this morning. Also, there was an effort to undermine Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas by 2 Democrat lawmakers, and it just hit a wall. We've got those stories coming up at 7:00 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Biggie Joan and 6:52. We have big news from my friends at DT McCall's. If you've been thinking about buying a gun safe, but you've been putting it off, now is your time. Gun safes are sales tax free at DT McCall's. Now, you know that they are the largest Liberty Safe dealer here in the state of Tennessee because of that free delivery and free setup featured at DT McCall's. Now, a lot of these other places, you know, they're going to charge you $500 at least for delivery and setup in bigger models, $300 for smaller models, but not at DT McCall & Sons. No, they deliver every safe for free every time, period. And no setup charge either. So this is the place you want to go. DT McCall's. Save some big bucks right now on your Liberty gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. Find them online, dtmccalls.com, for locations and information. 5 locations across Middle Tennessee: Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, and Franklin. Always online, dtmccalls.com.